Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and today I'm going to show you part 1 from the Simon Says January 2018. Yes, we are already in 2018. Card kit. So here I'm just showing the products that came in the kit. Some beautiful papers, a really cute stamp set with some excellent fonts for sentiments, some puffy stickers, a beautiful vintage platinum glitter. Oh yes, glitter is coming back. A Delicata pink shimmer pigment ink. You even got some envelopes in this kit. And then I've already cut my panels to be the 4 1/4, 5 1/2 top folding. These are the colors that came in the kit: the black, red, dark pink, light pink, and a craft. And then there was also one other color that I did not use. So let's get started with card number 1. So first I'm going to cut a heart panel. It's a die set that I have. I'm sorry, I do not know the name of this die set. It was given to me, so I'll try to find it, but it is a stitched heart die. I'm taking the oxide worn lipstick, putting it on my stamp block and creating some splatters. And now I'm going to pull in some black soot. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to put a little bit down onto my acrylic block, spray it with some water to water it down, and then picking that up with just a regular craft paintbrush, and then doing some splatters on that as well. I've also cut out one of the sentiment blocks from the panel within the card kit. I lost that footage. There's some footage that I lost throughout this, so bear with me. I heat set my ink splatters, and I'm using my Lawn Fawn scalloped rectangle die set, and we're going to just create some layers here. I'm going to prop up the sentiment section with some foam tape, but first, of course, after I've pulled off the backing, because I always change my mind, I'm going to ink up the edges with Distress Ink Vintage Photo and using my sponge dauber, just to give it some color, just to break up some of that white that's going to be in the background so that it didn't get lost within that. And that'll also pull out the splatters by doing that as well. I'm going to use my art glitter glue, and I'm going to adhere that down onto the heart panel that we have. Clear out any glue from the corners. And I was first looking at the pink. I thought that was just way too much pink going on there. So I grabbed the Nina Desert Storm card base, and again, 4 1/4, 5 1/2 top folding. And I'm going to prop that up with some foam tape and put that down right in the center. I'm going to grab my jute twine. Now this is just some twine that's used for jewelry making, and I absolutely love this twine. Again, all the supplies that I use will be linked down below. So we created a bow. I'm getting better at this. And we're just going to set that up on the top, and we are going to trim off the edges. I think it's really cute, kind of country looking, but very simple. For card number 2, I used, again, the Lawn Fawn scalloped rectangle die. I don't know, for some reason scallops and Valentine's go together for me. I'm not quite sure why. I'm going to use the Simon Says Intense Black ink, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment down in the bottom right-hand corner. And we're actually going to make a shaker card with this. I'm going to use one of those heart dies that I used for the previous card, and I'm going to cut out my shape up at the top on an angle. So now I've got my opening. So now I'm going to adhere my acetate. I'm going to cut a piece down to cover the heart, and I'm going to use my art glitter glue around the edge to secure that in place. I know a lot of people use a tape runner. I just choose to use a liquid adhesive on that. You can also use a tape runner. I'm doubling up my foam tape, And I've covered the back with that so that that's propped up. And I'm using another one of the papers from the collection that we got. And I'm going to cut it down so that it covers the opening. I want that, it's almost like the stamps in the stamp set. I want that to sit in the background. So I'm going to pull out my iridescent sequins, which have gone all over the place. You should have seen it when I first opened the container. It was like a sequin explosion. It was awesome. And then I'm going to pull in a red mix that I have. These are Craft Medley sequins, and it's called Rouge. So I'm just putting some of the red in there as well, making sure that they're flat so that they don't get trapped. I'm going to set that piece in place, and now we have our shaker set at the top. I'm going to then set this down onto the card panel. I'm going to use my tape runner. Yeah, Does this happen to everybody else too? So I pulled in another one, and I'm going to set that down on my card base, and I chose the deep red, which is a beautiful red for the card base. So you just see a hint of it on the outer edges of it. And then I cut two smaller using the same heart die set from the other two papers. And I'm going to adhere them down with my liquid glue and some foam squares just to give it some dimension. And then we're going to prop that one up on top of the XO one. Now in that open space there, I have a set of the Desiree confetti. There's hearts, there's love, actually the word love in this type of material as well, and then XOs. I just wanted the hearts to make it look like the hearts are floating up around the sentiment. So I'm using my wax pencil and my liquid adhesive, and I'm just adhering these hearts down. They are solid and very metallic, but they're really cool. I actually got my set from Joann's a couple years ago. So for card number 3, I'm going to pull in 2 sets of Altenew inks. Their sets come in, of course, 4 different shades. I'm using the solid heart, so I just put my finger on it just to condition it, give it a little love so that I get a solid impression of ink. When it comes to these stamps, I know in another video I showed that you can use an eraser, but for these photopolymer stamps from some of the companies, you can just use the oils in your finger to condition them, or Versamark ink. Where the other ones, those that you get from Michaels or AC Moore's, it's a different material that they're using. That's where the eraser would come in. So the colors that we use, you can see I'm going into shades of purple and shades of red. It's rose quartz, puffy heart, purple wine, cosmic berry, blush, rouge, crimson, and velvet. And I did use my anti-static tool, but this was a happy mistake. Even though I used the snow embossing powder from Recollections, it wasn't dry enough, and my tool didn't make the ink not moist, so to speak. I didn't heat set it, so the embossing powder kind of covered up the hearts. But this was a happy accident. It actually looks like those conversational hearts. I lost this footage. I used these 2 colors, purple wine and the rose quartz, and I variegated on that sentiment, "You're my favorite," and I used my stamp positioning tool to do that and stamped it a couple times. I cut the 2 layers from the Lawn Fawn scalloped rectangles, and then I used one of the pattern papers to give it the backdrop. I did cut a panel. You can see the wonky stitch die made an appearance here because, of course, we all know in most of my videos it has to. And now I'm just going to play around with these hearts, figure out where we're going to go and where we're going to put them. I did fussy cut these out with my scissors. They were easy. Yes, I did get a scan and cut for Christmas and loving it. Oh my goodness. It is, if you're on the fence, I know a couple of you are on the fence. It's an investment, but it is worth it. Wow. I am absolutely in love. Thank you all for talking me into that. Appreciate that. So I'm continuing putting my hearts throughout, again, kind of like a heart explosion coming up, and we're just wrapping it around the sentiment, deciding where we're down to the last few are going to, and some of them are up underneath the one panel. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to adhere it to my card base. I'm actually going to use the darker pink for the card base. I thought that with all the colors that are on this, you just see the hint of it going around the outside, but it was a good accent, even though, you know, you've got red. I'm trimming off the edges just to make it even, but still like it to go off the panel. So now I'm going to pull in my Glossy Accents, and I'm just going to cover within the dotted line of the stamp image that I used from the kit, and I'm going to fill in some of these hearts. And I'm just going to fill in 3 of them, just so that we can have some more dimension, some shine. And it really pulls out, the video just doesn't do it any justice, but it really does pull out the way that it embossed underneath it. I do keep my Glossy Accents in that fine tip applicator, and I just do the outline and fill it in. For this next card, this is kind of like a mixed media. We're going to pull in that wonky die again, and I cut that out of my black cardstock that I get from Michaels. And I also used the heart die, and I cut out 2 hearts from my craft by Recollections. And we're going to do some stamping on one of the hearts. So I'm using the Love You, and I'm using Simon Says Intense Black ink. And I'm also going to use some of those square sentiments that they have. So I chose the one that says Really, and I'm going to stamp that above it. And then in the Velvet from Altenew, I'm going to stamp below Love You Bunches. So now you've got this sentiment that says Really Love You Bunches. I pulled in my Gina K white pigment ink, and I'm using a sponge dauber to go around the edges of these hearts. I really do like the look of white ink on craft cardstock. I don't know why. It's something that I do just gravitate, but I wanted these hearts to stand out just a little bit against the black. This card's very different. There's not much to it. You can, you know, if you do this, I would love to see how you guys can take this type of a design and take off with it. And you'll see it as we go. And if you do, post them on my Facebook. I know a couple of you have been doing that, and it's been great to see what you guys have been coming up with some of the things that I've shown you. I'm using the warm lipstick oxide ink because it is solid when you stamp onto craft cardstock, which is great. I pulled in my twine again, and I'm going to create 3 layers of this. So I've just got these 3 strips, and I'm going to create a bow with these 3 strips. So it's going to be a big, big floppy, country looking bow. And we're going to set that aside. So I'm going to grab my twine again, and I want 3 strips of it again to make it look like it's coming off of that bow. So I'm just going to trim them so I have 3 equal lengths. Close enough, doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to grab my tweezers that just clamp down. And I'm going to grab my tape that I get from Joann's. It's from Ms. Sparkle & Company. They've got a really great line coming in, and this double-sided tape is super strong. And I'm going to set these 3 lengths in the center, and it's going to be actually on the back of my panel, down onto that, and then I'm going to set another piece of tape, so I'm trapping those back in there. And then just pinching the top so that they'll lay down the front of the card. So while I'm here, I'm actually going to use this tape just so I can adhere it onto the deep red card base. Again, 4 1/4, 5 1/2 top folding. So now I've got these 3 straggles coming down on the card. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, how do I want to do this? How do I want to build this? So I'm going to use my glue dots. And these are, I believe, either the 3/8 or the 1/2 inch. I'm going to set that down. And now I'm playing with the placement of the heart. So this is actually, it's not so much an interactive card, but there's going to be a lot of movement. So there's a couple things that you can do with this. So I've placed some glue dots, and now I'm going to place this other heart right on top of that. And if you notice, I placed the glue dots along each side of those 3 strips so that they'll stay in place. I'm going to set the bow at the top, and that heart is actually going to swing. I have a little heart hand punch. They were flying all over, and I just punched some of those out of my craft cardstock as well, and I'm going to adhere them onto the tails at the base of the card, and they're going to be double-sided. So I just put some glue, put the twine in the middle, and then place another one right on top, and really pinch down onto it so that it'll spread that glue out, but at the same time holding on to that piece of twine. And I do that for each of the 3 ends that are coming off. So you could just do a flat, you don't have to do a top folding or even a side folding. You could actually just do it a flat base, because you could flip that heart around and write something on that. Or do what I did and put it on a card. I'm going to use my Glossy Accents to cover the 2 boxes that I stamped. I've pulled in my Spectrum Noir glitter pen to go over the worn lipstick oxide ink, which is great because it reacts. And they get brighter and glittery and all that fun stuff. So kind of a mixed media, but you could do so much more with it. So if you give this a try, please go to my Facebook and post. I'd love to see them. I love to see what you guys create. So for the next card, I'm going to be using this die from Spellbinders. It's a Shapeabilities die called Vines of Passion. So I have my white base, and then I'm using that variegated piece of cardstock, and I die cut through that, and I'm saving all those little pieces. Don't lose them. And then I used black cardstock for the background. So I'm going to use a tape runner, cover up the white card base, and then I'm going to set the black outline of the heart and set that down on there, and I'll still have the adhesive coming through. If you saw a previous video when I first did a die inlay with Joy, I used glue and made it like a fun puzzle game. This time I used a tape runner. Someone had suggested that they tried that and it works, and they are correct, so thank you. So now I'm just setting my pieces in, and what's nice is the words and the variegated will come up through this heart as I put these pieces in. This didn't take me long at all. I'm using my wax pencil. It not only works on sequins and gems, it will work on paper as well to pick up those really small pieces. So just press them down, making sure everything is set onto that panel. Now I'm just taking my Prismacolor alcohol pen in black and just going around the edges. I should have done the base in black as well, but doing it in white kind of helped me to see the areas so that I knew exactly where to put my pieces down. I'm going to prop the heart up with some foam tape. And of course, once again, I'm ready to set it down and come up with another idea. So I've got to set that aside, making sure nothing gets attached to it. So I pulled in the XOXO sentiment, and I'm going to use my VersaFine ink, and I'm going to stamp this 3 times. And the embossing powder that I used is the Ranger Sticky Embossing Powder. Once that's set, and again, this is the type where you heat set it, the moment it changes, move on. You don't want to keep your heat on this too much. You don't want to almost lose the stickiness. I'm going to use this beautiful glitter and go right over that so that now you can see the 3 XOs that I stamped. I do varnish that. I actually do that off camera, just to make sure that the glue is adhered down onto the embossing powder. And then I set my heart in place, just coming over that top one. So those are the 5 cards that we created. I hope you enjoyed them, and if you do, hit that thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. I'd love to have you here in our group, just talking about cards and anything paper, so to speak. This again is part 1. Part 2 will be coming out later on in the week to show the next 5 cards that I created. All the supplies that I used outside of the kit will be listed down below in the description. If you have any questions or comments, or if you would like to see something, if you're curious about something, put it below. Let's see what we come up with. I enjoy doing this channel, and I do this channel for everyone. I think we have a really good time. We come up with some really neat ideas together. Again, whenever you try, if you do try any of these things that I've done, or even if you've created something and want to share, please do so on my Facebook. I love to see it. And always remember, be creative. 2018 is going to have a lot of it.